There were other ways that a cadet could screw up. One event took place during field training. This is the one period of time during Beast Barracks where we had a little fun. We went marching and camping, and we even got to fire rifles. It was on the rifle range and later in the mess hall where Jim Harding learned the consequences of being BJ with a general officer. Out on the range, the new cadets were busy firing away at targets that they were visualizing in their minds as heads of upperclassmen. El Supremo, General Westmoreland, had come down to see how his band of ducklings were doing on the rifle range. Somehow or other, new cadet Harding caught Westy's eye. Cadet Harding, in a spirit of cordiality, asked the soup, "Are you keeping busy?" Westmoreland's response has not been recorded, but apparently he was not bothered by the question itself. However, as our classmate Fred Pope reports, I sat next to Jim that evening in the mess hall. The entire Beast High Command ringed the table that night just to yell at him. The rest of us were ignored, and we took big bites. Nick Lukianov reports, it was on the second or third day of Beast Barracks at the Honor Code Orientation and Explanation meeting. Our squad leader, Jim Godwin, explained to us that we could not lie, cheat, or steal, and the penalties for doing so. Mike Narowski was sitting next to me and listening intently. When John finished, he asked, "Does anyone have any question?" In all seriousness, Mike asked, "Is it a violation of the honor code if one lies to a girl in an attempt to seduce her?" John thought for a moment and answered, "No, that is within bounds." Mike was visibly relieved and sat down with a huge smile on his face. During Beast Barracks, we were overworked and underfed, and Academy officials were concerned about our health. Could it be that too many expired cadets might reflect poorly on the general officer's efficiency report? As a barometer of our health, during evening showers, in between sweating coins to the wall, we responded to the question, "How long has it been since you had a bowel movement?" The hours were shouted out. 8 hours, sir. 12 hours, sir. A quarter of an hour, sir. 768 hours, sir. This last response brought questioning to a halt. Ralph Corley was sent to the hospital where a foot or two of his intestines were removed. Ralph survived this episode and a later encounter with the bottom of the swimming pool. Although he had not yet recovered from his operation, Ralph was required to take a swim test, where he jumped in and sank like a Tony Soprano garbage bag. Ralph remained on the bottom for what seemed like several minutes. Coach Sorge, who was noted for saying there are no walls out there, said, "Leave him alone, he'll make it up." Finally, the coach relented and said, "Go get him." Several of us jumped in and pulled Ralph out. Ralph survived these episodes and went on to successfully graduate. So how did we make it through Beast Barracks and through the 4 years that followed? What motivated us? Primary gratitude goes to our squad leader. Remember, everything I am and everything I hope to be, I owe to my squad leader. Cadet, fill in the blank. Ron Zinn, class of 62, inspired us by overcoming complaints from his own upperclassmen, who screwed his neck in and ordered, "Mr. Zinn, why are you bouncing? Stop that bouncing." Well, Ron did not stop bouncing and went on to represent America and the Corps of Cadets as a race walker in the 1960 Olympics. Our classmate Dirk Scow also represented the United States of America, the United States Army, and the Corps of Cadets, but in a different way. Although the story is quite inspiring, it's better left told over a few beers. One by President Kennedy, one by General MacArthur, one by General Spizzerinctum. John F. Kennedy spoke at the 1962 class graduation. John Fitzgerald Kennedy was our president. We froze our butts off marching in his inauguration in 1961. We protected him as he changed sides at the Army-Navy Games. And we mourned his death.
General Westmoreland, General Lemonster, Mr. Secretary, General Decker, General Taylor, members of the graduating class and their parents, gentlemen. I want to express my appreciation for the generous invitation to come to this graduating class. I'm sure that all of you who sit here today realize that you are part of a long tradition stretching back to the earliest days of this country's history, and that where you sat once some of the most celebrated names in our nation's history, and also some who are not so well known, but who on 100 different battlefields in many wars involving every generation of this country's history have given very clear evidence of their commitment to their country. So that I know that you feel a sense of pride in becoming part of that tradition. And as a citizen of the United States as well as President, I want to express our high regard to all of you and appreciation for what you are doing and what you will do for our country in the days ahead.
In 1964, we were in the mess hall when General Douglas MacArthur gave his farewell address to the Corps of Cadets. Dan Dieter tells us his story about this occasion. As the only cadet from Mrs. MacArthur's hometown of Murfreesboro, Tennessee, I was detailed to be her escort during the mess hall ceremony and the general's speech. I was introduced to Mrs. MacArthur, and we proceeded to the poop deck. Outranked in every respect, I attended to Mrs. MacArthur, seated her, and we began the meal. Mrs. MacArthur took it as her charge to see that I ate a full meal. We finished the apple pie with cheese. At that point, Mrs. M decided that I needed another dessert. She reached across the table to the dessert of one of the other ladies and told her, "Mildred, you don't need this," and gave it to me. When it came time for the presentations and the speech, we moved her chair to the edge of the railing, and I stood behind her. She strained to hear the words, and as I recall, only the thundering words of duty, honor, country were easily distinguishable. When the ceremony was over, she thanked me and left with the official party. Several weeks later, my mother received a nice note from Mrs. MacArthur, saying that she shared lunch with me and enjoyed talking about our hometown. It's said that one picture is worth 1,000 words. This image tells the story of the third speech that motivated us. But to what ends? One person helped us through the depressing gloom periods following our 4 losses to Navy in football.